So this is the end of turn 14, winter of 64. We tried to push Lee out of Fredericksburg. APL took back there, but Warren and Pedersen are holding on down here. Activations were 1, 2, 4, 2. And so that's over there in Virginia. The Navy with Card took Fort Macomb there, and pretty stalemated on the border of South Carolina. Kirby Smith has moved over to Columbus here, whereas Hancock is dug in at Montgomery. Salem's taken. Sherman's gone up to Toulouse. Excuse me. And McPherson's came up here. So McPherson took Jackson, but Morgan cut off his thing, so he just retreated over to join Sherman. So Vicksburg and Mississippi's holding out, but also down here, Houston was taken by Sigel, and they're still holding out up here in Arkansas. Arkansas Post was taken out by a tie with him, did a seaborne invasion, and nothing happened. So they were able to hold on to that. And basically everything's pretty quiet. Playing this fast is kind of also, I'm not making the best maneuvers, but I'm seeing, like, without those 2 points of extra movement points, I could add McPherson. He was here at Meridian. He could have ran all the way down here and took Mobile with those extra 2 points of movement. And couldn't do that maneuver, so this removing the 2 movement points has really changed a lot of options that you could sneak in if you had the cards to do what you needed to do. But without that, it's a little more restrictive sometimes. And I think the Union player is holding its own on victory points, but it's getting more into the positive for them, and it's really hurting the Confederates now. So on to turn 15. So this is the end of turn 15, spring of 64. The Shenandoah Valley was cleaned out. Warren forced A.P. Hill out, and he went to Richmond. Oh, the activations for this turn was 2, 1, 1, 4. Down here in South Carolina and Georgia, Grant kept everybody tied down there. Hancock pushed out Kirby Smith out of Columbus. McPherson and Sherman are maneuvering in Mississippi. But the big thing was here in Arkansas was cleaned out. Little Rock and Arkansas Post. And there was some activity here. Texas and Natchitoches. Screw that up. Was taken, but there's only militia up here guarding basically all this open area on the map, and Hooker is stuck down here. And that's about it. Oh, the even though there was very few activities for this turn, a lot of maneuvers were happening because of cards, because there was a lot of card draws during this turn, so that helped the activations for both sides to make things maneuver a little bit more, whereas the activations were kind of low. Alright, on to summer 1 of 64. So this is the end of summer of 64. So Sherman's cleared out Vicksburg, and Jackson here is going to push down, and if they take these two spots, they basically control the Mississippi, and that would probably push them over the edge to automatic victory after this next, with if they took some of Georgia here, rather easily, or Mobile. So the Confederates are really getting on the end here, and it's like once things get pierced of the defense, it kind of falls pretty rapidly unless you can keep a pocket, and the actions get pretty low. So this one was 2, 2, 3, 3, so not too bad for the Union player, and a couple evens on the die roll, so we got some extra cards to do extra things. But typically it's stalemated here up in the eastern North Virginia area. So onward to 64, summer 2, turn 17. So this is the end of turn 17. We had action cycles was 1, 3, 1, 3. Meade has pushed Lee into Richmond. Nothing's happened in North Carolina. Grant's still hanging out here in South Carolina. Alabama has been pretty much controlled, except the fort's still under control, and Talladega is still under Confederate control. Mississippi is under Union control. They got the river Mississippi all the way open. Curtis came down here and took to Shreveport, right? Yeah. And Price booted him out, but then Sigel came in and took Marshall from Natchitoches. And Hood tried to take New Orleans, but failed due to poor die roll. A lot of the die rolling is saved some bacons and lost others. Man, Union's getting closer to the automatic victory, but a little short. So on to the fall of 64. So this is the end of fall of 64. And so this is the special election rules. Meade has taken Richmond and Peterson. But Wheeler came up here and cleaned out all the controlled hexes here, but they controlled the ports back here. Yeah, the action cycle was pretty slow. 2, 3, 1, 1. Grant didn't go very far because they cut off his supply and he had to kind of fix that. West, Sherman was trying to move up. It was kind of a little quiet there. But the blockade is working over here. Price got knocked out of Shreveport, ran down here, and Nacogdoches took that. Then it was taken back by Siegel, but he can run all the way down to Houston. But Siegel's getting an LLC right behind him. So, but I mean, it's looking pretty dead because right now the victory points for the Union player is 61 plus 3 for Mississippi. But since this was an election turn, it would have triggered the automatic victory, but you minus 5 from the victory points for the Union player. If it doesn't trigger the automatic victory for a Confederate, the game continues, and the 5 VPs are back. So basically, if this is same status end of next turn, which there are no SPs, reinforcements, it's basically over the winter of 65 for the Confederates. Onward. So this is the end of turn 19 of winter of 65, and basically it's over. Grant pushed into South Carolina, Sherman pushed up into here, into Georgia, taking Macon, Middleville, and but Price was able to take Houston, and but it was pretty much a foregone conclusion. Forgot to use Forrest, tried to take Savannah, and I forgot to use my card to bump them up to take Savannah. So if I had, it would have taken it back, but it wasn't going to do much good because Grant and Sherman taking everything else over and pretty much clinched it. But the odd thing on this, the action cycle differentials was 2, 2, 1, 2, so a very slow turn for this. But it was a Union victory. And so the new rules is kind of made the 1861 with mostly had to spend more activations trying to take Missouri back, and deal with West Virginia is more problematic, so it really puts the Union player back behind the 8 ball, but the blockade is not as harsh, so that kind of helped and extend the Confederate player, but also missing a few SPs in the beginning along the coast was a bit different and problematic, because just a little bit went a long way previously, covering certain areas, and it really affects both players in that Union player didn't really have to cover an area of depth for the Confederate player shooting up 9 movement points with their cavalry trying to take towns in the border states and stuff like that. Didn't really have that issue this time, but playing fast and loose, if I put more thought in the Confederate side, it may have been different, but it really ties everybody. I didn't have to use the Union player to cover more spaces, knowing that the distance probability of if they have a card I need to protect further out than needed, and even as penetrating deeply into the south, you would have to cover so much area. So it does change the game a little bit more. How significantly? It's still balanced. It was still touch and go, and at the 1862 part is where the Union player can totally lose this game. It's still there. So it's a quick playthrough with the new rules.